Good evening and welcome to the October 29th, 2014 Conservation Commission hearing. At this point in time, I'd like to ask anybody who has electronic devices, phones, pages, all that kind of happy stuff, to please silence them or shut them off. As we go along in the hearing, you'll hear us make motions and seconds and that, and it may seem like it's moving on quickly. There will be time for public comment, so don't fret. If you want to make a public comment, please come up to the podium, identify yourself for the record, and then you can proceed with your questions or whatever. First on the agenda tonight is to vote minutes, October 15th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've read the minutes and I find them to be in order. No corrections.
Second. Mary's motion, Mike's second. Any discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is October 22nd, 2014.
Mr. Chair, I've read the minutes and find them perfectly acceptable.
I have some corrections.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's mistakes in the, yeah.
I believe my name was substituted for Mr. Power's name, and it's okay. I just can't take credit for his words. I would never do so.
Okay, if you can hand the corrected, Mary.
I have a few other things. Small correction on page 3 that I don't think needs to be discussed, but it has to do with the erosion control plan and the implication of the minutes is that I had said that staff should be notified when the plan is being developed, but in fact what I said was staff should be notified if erosion occurs. And then there are a few things in the discussion of the Zero Ferry Road that that I think are not quite in line with the intent of what person in question said. And I can just hand that in, or I can bring it, I can address it if you want. But there's one where I'm not sure what's correct, and possibly it's correct as it stands, but I don't know. It has to do with Ms. Wayland, one of the applicants.
Right.
She made some comments, and she's saying, that several generations have been affected by what's happened with the dock. The dock used to be longer, and she said the grant holder objected to this and came to the commission. And I don't remember that anybody said something like that about the grant holder. I assume
Submitted a letter of no objection.
Well, no, she also historically did make mention, she did say that the grant
Oh, no,
holder,
that's right.
in the previous, that
the previous grant holder.
in the-
Right.
The grant holder and on the previous dock, the one that was existing, that they had extended after it was, they said historically it was X long, and then they added something, and that's when the grant holder came and objected to it, and they took that extension and they had put on
Okay.
back out.
Okay,
That was with former grant holder Kelly.
Yes, and that was
Okay.
mentioned too, the name was
Yep,
mentioned.
yep.
yeah, okay.
Yes, I do recall that being
Yeah.
said. With that standing, and we hand those over to Susan,
Yes,
we have,
I'll hand them down in a minute.
we have Mike's original motion. We haven't had a second, but the second would include the revisions that were discussed.
I'll second that.
And that's Russell's second. Okay, any further discussion on the board? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is request for a continuance under a determination of applicability. The determination of applicability is a lesser of the permits. This is something that staff reviews these projects. They come in and make notes for us to read, and we vote on what staff's recommendations are accordingly. This first one is a request for 9 Bournes Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing cesspool and septic tank and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 5th.
So move.
Second.
That's Michael's motion, Russ's second. Is there any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion on this project in the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a request for a continuance under an amended notice of intent.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until November 5th.
And
So
this is-
moved. Oops.
And this is the Black Beach Harbor Head Association, Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road.
And this
Sorry.
is the second continuance, is that right?
I believe it is.
Yep.
That was your motion?
Yes, so moved, yeah.
Second.
And Mary's second. Russ's motion, Mary's second. Any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now we have the request for determination of applicability. These are the ones that I briefly mentioned before. First up is 19 Lauren Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct and maintain a 4-bedroom, single-family house with attached garage, 3-season room to install a new Title V sewage disposal system, deck, porch, paved driveway, utilities, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff has reviewed the project and we are recommending a negative 2 under the statement of bylaw. The resource area vendors not confirmed.
So moved.
Yeah, that would be Mary's motion, Mario's second. Any further discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a continued, the 9 Bournes Pond was continued to November 5th. Next, we have a continued request for determination of applicability. Town of Falmouth, 154 Blacksmith Shop Road, for permission to regrade the existing bituminous concrete access road north of the existing beds number 12 and 13, and an overlay with pavement to transition to gravel road, create a new 12-foot wide access road, including grubbing, clearing, grading, and paving, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. I just want to thank them for including grubbing, because we never say that word enough.
What does that
We
mean?
reviewed the project and we're recommending a negative 2 under the bylaw and it is not jurisdictional under the state.
So moved.
Second.
That'll be Russell's motion, Mike's second. Is there any further discussion on the board?
I would like to know what grubbing is.
Grubbing is just, it's not really grading, it's just loosely adhering.
Grubbing.
It's grubbing. Yeah,
Okay.
grubbing with like a grub hole. It's just,
Exactly, grub.
yeah, it's not a whole lot of disturbance, it's just controlled disturbance.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Is there any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 24 Racing Beach Ave, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to regrade and repave a portion of the driveway to install retaining walls, a new gas service, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're recommending a negative 2 under the bylaw and negative 3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Mary's motion, Mike's second. Any further discussion on the board? Any discussion in the audience about this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next, we have requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First this evening is 180 Waterside Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove ornamental trees and plants installed by the neighbor, install native trees and shrubs to be monitored and maintained in the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Do you have anything at this time, Jen?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll save any questions or comments until the applicant's presentation. After the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. For the record, Barbara Frappia with Warwick and Associates, representing the Ferreras, or the current owners of this property. This is one of those tidy it up after we have a purchase and sale agreement in place. It was just discovered that there was an open order of conditions. In the course of searching for compliance for that, to close out that order, it was found that a significant portion of what was once a wooded, naturally wooded area had been cleared. This was done with the permission of the then property owner, but it was done by the neighbor, who said, "Would you mind if I took out those trees?" And he said, "No, go ahead." So they let him do it, and then they planted this nice little row of Leyland cypress down what everyone thought was the property line. Well, if you look at this picture over here, and if you went to the site and saw it staked out, this is the property line. So what ended up happening is this wooded patch ended up being turf green sod with a row of Leyland cypress. You can imagine what Mark thought when he saw that. So, as part of the getting the compliance and allowing the sale to go forward, the now owners agreed to file a notice of intent for the purpose of restoring that area back to a native plant material. We're talking bayberry, viburnums, tupelos, that type of thing, and it's all going to be planted in the area that's marked in green, and it was staked on the site. While we were looking at the site and deciding what to do out there, the Ferreras hired Maria Hickey of Maria Hickey Landscaping to come out to do the restoration. And in going over the property, it was discerned that there's an awful lot of invasives growing in the other areas of native vegetation. So part of the project is also to remove invasives, and where they leave any holes, to plug them with native plants. And Maria is here tonight if you have any questions of her on her methodology or protocol or the species that she's going to use. And once we have everything done, we will then ask for compliance and have an ongoing order of conditions on this property that provides for monitoring and maintaining the plants. So if you have any questions of me or of Maria, we'll be glad to take them.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Barbara. I guess my question is for Maria. Maria, you're going to remove the invasives throughout the whole property and then plug wherever it is?
They're primarily on the north
Yeah.
border.
Okay.
That's the area that we're going to have. There's a ton of bittersweet that's snaking up through the cedars and the junipers. And as you all probably know, you get a good nor'easter that comes through, and the weight of those vines will topple the trees, so we don't want to lose the trees.
Okay, do me a favor, before you tackle that area, I'll
Yep.
probably put a condition that we'll have a site visit
Yeah.
and/or photograph it.
Yeah, Mark actually met me out there,
Yeah, okay, great.
and we did a little walkthrough, and he
Okay.
was like, "Oh, get rid of it." So,
He doesn't like invasive, so.
So that's what we're
Mark
planning
said,
to do.
Actually, great, okay, perfect, thanks.
thank you. Any other questions?
Well, we're gonna come down the board in
Not
just
for
a
me.
moment. John?
Yes.
I was wondering if you just talk a little bit about your plan for replacing the shrubs in that highlighted area. You talked about possibly putting in some fine mulch. If you could just describe that a little bit for me.
Okay, so And the mulch also on the other side where we have the invasives. So basically, we need to remove the lawn, remove the ornamentals, put our native species in. We've found that, because there are invasive plants on that side as well, if we put down landscape fabric, and I've talked to you all about this before, and then we put mulch on top, it keeps any of the invasive weeds and vines from coming back up, but the water and the light and the nutrients can flow downward. That gives the native species the best chance to be able to thrive and flourish and grow in pretty quickly. And the mulch on top just keeps the moisture in and from the site overheating.
And I think it makes the maintenance a little bit easier
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Okay.
So we found it's a win-win because we're not going into the native border and habitat to weed out things that shouldn't be in there, because once you go in there, now you're stepping in protected areas. So
Right.
it keeps everyone out of there,
Okay.
humans and weeds.
And you're going to do that on the north side and the south
Yes.
side?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's all for me.
Thank you. Mike?
I'll defer to Mario.
Russ?
I'm going the same way. I'll defer to Mario too.
Mary?
I just have a couple of little things.
Sure.
I didn't see anything in the record about either erosion control or the limit of work, and given the boundary problem last time, we need designation of a limit of work.
Typically, we put down silt sock on any project. So we can do that in this case, and I'm assuming you guys will have it all staked out. It'll all be staked out, so we'll be very clear on where we are working.
Okay. And the one other thing, Barbara's narrative, I think, referred to the trees being planted in a staggered fashion, not in a line. I was just wondering if you have an idea of, well, first of all, what species you're referring to, if it's the holly or tupelo that's on your list? Yes. And, how many trees, roughly speaking? 5? Okay. That's all for me. Thank you.
Mario?
Yeah, Barb, first off, I agree with Mary that we need a little bit more erosion control
Yep.
along the north side there. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I know you're not, Barbara. I should look up.
I used to
I'm
look
a
like
blonde
her.
version of Barbara.
You can see the bending of the contours up here, and there is a little bit of a washout with the mulch and stuff, and it appears kind of headed towards the bank.
Yeah.
So I think you need some kind of erosion control or a water bar or something.
Okay, so as you'll see on the plant list, one of the things that I did put in there was Rosa virginiana. It does a great job it grows into such a thick thicket, because the nature of the habitat, it sprawls. And and it develops a pretty fast root system. I mean, ones we planted in August, by September, it looked like they'd been there for years on some other projects. So I find that's a really great one to help hold everything in place.
What I had in mind mainly was while the work's being done.
Oh, yeah,
There's
silt sock.
A lot being taken out, so.
So the first thing we would do would be to put the silt sock in before we even take anything out.
You know, the siltation fabric fence you have there now,
I didn't put that was me.
non-functional,
Yeah.
shall we
That
say?
was a builder.
I wasn't even sure what that
You know when I've been there.
what that's supposed to be for. It's not,
Maybe it was the old
Gonna
limit of
hold
work, I
anything.
don't know. But,
Yeah,
not even
I
gonna take care
typically,
of-
we put double rows of the silt sock, and we drive the 1x1x4 stakes right through them.
Yeah.
Because there's been projects that not only do they catch the erosion, but they catch the people, if it's a steep enough hill. So we usually try to double row if it's steep, or we feel like it could be slick.
I'm sure you have ways of countermanding the runoff there. This is a heck of an encroachment. I mean, I've seen little encroachments,
It's like 30 feet.
Sheds put a couple of feet over the line. Do the neighbors to the south know how this is going to transform their backyard?
They are now aware of it. As you know, sometimes when you go out there, everybody says, my property line runs right there. Well, no, it doesn't. It's over there. But you're so used to where you look, where your chairs face, you think, that's my property line, because that's where my grandfather said it was. Now you find out that that's not where it was. It was very symmetrical, it looked kind of nice.
If the grandfather was surveyor, he'd have a little more
There you go.
expertise on the matter. But, you know, all those evergreens are going to be coming out, and a large portion of the lawn is also going to be taken out. So it's going to be a little change in their backyard, as long as they understand that. You know, just a quickie, has the pier been licensed, do you know? It has, 'cause I didn't notice any Chapter 91 sign up or a license number, so you... That's what...
That was all part of the original, getting orders of conditions signed off and everything prior to the sale of the property, to make sure it was licensed and all of that.
It's my understanding that we don't have a DEP number,
Do not.
so this would require a continuance for the simple reason that we have enough information. I believe that's, I'm taking that from the board, that we have enough information to close this, but we're not going to because we have a DEP number issue. And we have a scattered gathering in November. We have a couple days off. So how long do you think it would be before you get?
Try to get Christine to give it to you next week.
For the 5th. If we don't, I will try to get her to get, if she'll get it for me for the 5th. In the interim, well, all right, I'll try to get it for the 5th.
Okay. So,
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing till November 5th.
Second.
okay, we have Russell's motion,
But I don't have to be here.
and either Mike or Mary's second. And that's for continuance. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make any comments about this project? And just have any questions about what a continuance is all about? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good night. Have a happy Halloween. Good luck on your apartment hunt tomorrow.
So moving forward, next is 12 Nichols Road, Wacoit, Mass, for permission to renovate the existing house by reconfiguring the first floor layout, adding a second-story addition to the house, a new addition to the front of the house to install dry wells, native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jeff?
I'll save any of my comments until after.
Thank you. Good evening, my friend.
Mr. Chairman, are you?
I am well.
Members of the commission, my name is Mike Porcelli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Claudia and Richard Mackin. And the Mackins are here tonight in the audience in the back if there's any questions for them. I have a butters cards, including one to DEP.
Thank you.
Because they don't even have it listed. Let alone the number.
The Mackins own a property at 12 Nichols Road. It's on Wacoit Bay. There's a single-family dwelling on the property. There's an existing licensed dock on the property. The wetland resources include land under the ocean, a small beach, a coastal bank, which is in the form of riprap. And those are all delineated on the plan. The top of the coastal bank is delineated on the plan. Just south of the property, and I show it in green here, is a salt marsh. And the associated no disturbance zone A and outer buffer zone Bs are also shown to those respective wetland resources. We're also in land subject to coastal storm flowage. The work that we're proposing is a renovation of the house so that it can be more suitable for year-round living, retirement, etc. And part of that includes a complete interior renovation of the first floor living space, not to be confused with the lower or the basement level, but the first floor from street level is being renovated and altered in a way that will allow for more garage space. If you look at the plan, there's an area with a dashed line, and that's designed to be a garage that'll allow 2 cars to be stacked. The lot's not wide enough to have a 2-car garage width-wise. So the renovation to have some additional garage space meant that it took up some of the habitable space on the first floor, and they had designs to alter it anyway, so that first floor is being completely altered. And then because of some of that lost space and the need for some, the bedrooms, there's a second story proposed. The net result is no increase in bedrooms. The septic system's in the front yard, it's not impacted, so there's no proposal to do anything to the septic system. There is a minor increase in the footprint. I keep having reverb, sorry about that. Might be the tone of my voice. There's a small addition outside the footprint, and that is in an area that will require some compensation in the form of mitigation. It's in the outer buffer zone B to the coastal bank. So the mitigation required is a 2-to-1 ratio, and we show that on the plan. In this area, we're proposing to use Bayberry. The limit of work is shown here. The house currently doesn't have dry wells. The new roof roof runoff will be collected to dry wells. There's a detail of the dry well on the plan. I think that pretty much sums it up, and I'm happy to take questions.
Jen?
Like when you said we're gonna renovate the interior, are they taking, they're not coming down to the foundation, they're going up, the walls are remaining, correct?
The walls are remaining. The roof will come off for the second story.
For the second story?
Yes.
Okay. That's it right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. No, start with Mario this time.
No real questions. I have just one question really is that 10-inch holly there off the proposed addition, it's pretty close to the addition, and that's a really nice holly. It's a full-grown female.
Mm-hmm.
Any guarantees that won't be in any way bumped by machinery? It's got a thin bark, so
Right, I understand.
it gets cut.
I don't know, I can't guarantee that, of course, but there's no intention to remove the holly as far as I know. So we're certainly, aware of it and can take whatever steps are necessary to protect it.
Any chance of
Like that holly's only like
orange
2 feet
construction?
off your addition,
Right.
it's probably not gonna be saved.
It just seems like it's awfully close to,
2 feet is that?
It's outside our jurisdiction.
Well, it's just inside the
Not
50-foot
technically.
no disturbance zone,
Just-
but,
Just inside.
And it's within land subject to coastal storm foliage, like I thought, oh no, it's down. Actually, just read the word hard. Anyway, you heard Mario's concerns.
It
He
may-
wants to
it may
see
be
the holly,
able-
And I don't think it's possible.
it may be able to be spaded. I don't know enough about the holly trees root system, but
it's the best holly in the lot. Is
Yeah.
there any way of construction fencing,
The-
wrapped around it?
there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't put construction fencing. It is close, Jen's right about that. we could
I mean,
look
it's an
at,
amenity for the landowner to
Yeah.
have a tree like that.
yeah, I don't think they had any designs on pulling it out. They want to keep it, so they're motivated to keep the tree. Now, from a practical point of view, construction-wise, I don't know, but they're going to take every step they can to protect it. There might be an opportunity to spade it out beforehand and maybe plant it in a different place. But they're not planning on just cutting it and not considering saving.
Because holly's that big, it's difficult to transplant.
Are they? I
Yeah,
don't know that.
yeah.
I don't know that.
They're not a lot of fun to transplant, particularly that
It's just a
mature.
timing question, you know. I'd like to save that tree.
I think they, yes. Is that it, Mario? You're done? Okay. Mary?
The only thing for me is, you have the note on here about limiting the additional floor area on the second floor to 200 square feet because of the velocity zone. And that's great, and I'm just wondering if, you know, we can include a special condition to that effect, or if you have architecturals, you can also submit for that. That would be my only request.
I think that Mary brings up a good point, that this is the one bite of the pie on this. This is what's established. It's not like another 10 years from now, another 200 feet on top of this.
Right.
So as long as the applicant is aware of that this is the expansion you're allowed, and then going down the road 10, 15 years, you want to reapply for something, you can do it in the same footprint, because this, now you've reached your maxed out. As long as you're aware of that, that's something that we'll put as a finding. Thank you, Mary. Anything else?
That's all, thank you.
Russ?
I have no questions, I don't have a problem with
Okay. Mike?
No problem, no questions.
John?
My only question, and I would be interested in Mario's perspective on this, with the bayberry, is it helpful to have a mixture of plants there? I mean, I know we have an extensive list of what can be planted there. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with bayberry, but just to have more of a mix there, if you'd be open to that.
Diversity.
I don't know if there's a benefit to that in this situation or not, but
Yeah, well, bayberry's sort of like one of those proven ones.
Yeah.
Right.
But we could do a mix of, is it the Virginia rose, maybe? We've got Rosa rugosa existing, which isn't a native and not on your list, and we're planting near it. The Virginia rose might be something we could mix in. We're certainly open to
Okay.
suggestions.
Okay.
it.
Do we have, with all the comments being made, do we have enough information? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under.
Close the hearing.
Oh, no DP.
Mike doesn't have a DEP.
I'm sorry, you showed me that. I
In fact,
apologize.
Mike's not even on the list.
Well,
I-
we
I
did,
know, I'm just teasing you.
just so you know, we did talk to Christine, and it was a mix-up on their end. She replied by email to us, so they have
That's
it.
why I asked Erica
Yeah.
for that green card.
Yeah, and they were notified. They just,
That's fine.
they haven't reached their time limit yet anyway, so they have more time to issue the file number, I believe, so.
How about next week?
Yeah, but I would think that would be fine.
Okay.
There's no
For a DEP
revisions.
number only, continues next week.
Make a motion to continue the hearing till November 5th for DEP number only.
Second.
Yeah, Mike, Russell's motion, Mary's second. This is for a DEP number. At this point in time, I'll open it up to the audience. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this project? Seeing none, thank everybody for their participation, and call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent. First up is 410 Seacoast Shores Boulevard, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to demolish the existing house, construct a 5-bedroom, single-family house with porches, deck and stairs, remove trees, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
I have a quorum.
And we don't have an engineer right here.
That also.
Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, and John.
What was that?
Mary, Russ, Tom.
Mary, Russ, Tom, and John.
Oh, that works.
Thought you said Mike.
All we need is Mr. Verselli.
And Mike. I think the second time.
Oh, did I even mention Mike? Yeah.
And
Mary,
Mike.
Russ, Tom, Mike, and John.
Yeah, I think you mentioned him once, but not both
Oh,
times.
sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to exclude you in this second round.
I'm not slighted.
Mr. Verselli, you're up.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Good evening, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, that's not the plan before you.
No, it's not.
The plan before you is Bovier was continued. There were no plan revisions. You asked for one bit of information that we already submitted, and that was details on the breakaway panels. So that information was provided to the file. That was the only reason the hearing was continued.
And we have all that information now.
Here's the sketch on the breakaway panels, Mr. Chairman, this is the gray one. Yeah.
So he has complied with what was requested, and
Correct.
therefore, I would entertain a motion.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second?
Mary's motion, Russell's second. At this point, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Next, Town of Falmouth, Beach Committee, 295 Quaker Road, North Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove approximately 320 linear feet of 2 rows of wooden retaining wall, install a crushed stone, 6-foot, 6-inch deep, approximately 240 cement blocks, 4-foot by 28 inches deep and 2-foot high, with a top course consisting of a cap block for a wall height of 4 to 5 feet, the restoration of the disturbed coastal dune with dune grass and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Good evening.
Evening. I'm Don Hoffman, Beach Superintendent. Ready to answer your questions?
Well,
At least I think I'm ready.
yes, usually there's we didn't,
I think this was just a DEP.
No.
no, this, we haven't heard it at all.
Don, can you give the board a brief kind of description of how you think the methodology is going to, kind of what you want to do? and
Yeah,
the
we-
methodology
right,
and
we have,
how you do it?
At an area of Old Silver Beach, we have an area called the Chute. And in that chute, there's 90 parking spaces, normally. This past year, we were unable to house the 90 cars, and each space is at least $20, assuming the car stays there all day. If there's a turnover, you're talking multiple 20. What we've had to do, because these walls are collapsing, is we've had to parallel park on one side and do the normal vertical parking on the other. That's because the backing distance is not in accordance with the state law as to how far back you have to be. What we're proposing to do is on day one, the DPW has kind of bought onto this thing, and they will bring an excavator to the truck, and truck to the site, and we'll clean the area on the pavement where they're going to temporarily, we'll store the sand removed on the pavement that's there, and they'll remove approximately 320 feet of derelict wooden walls and deposit this debris to a waiting truck for disposal at an approved site. We will remove a minimum amount of dune material, just sufficient to develop an angle of repose as shown on the engineering drawing. I presume you have a copy of the engineering drawing. And then what we'll do is excavate an 8 to 10 inch trench, and all along 320 feet, and put crushed stone in there. This is per the recommendation of the block manufacturer. And then we propose by day 3 to put approximately 240 cement blocks will be delivered and placed on the pavement. The DPW will set the blocks in place. These blocks are very similar to what you see at the rec center, recently constructed. We'll backfill as we go and remove, return all sand removed. This will extend the pavement about 14 inches. That's the distance between the two existing walls right now. Originally it was 14 inches. And that'll give us sufficient room to park cars as we normally do. I plan to, there's examples of what we've done this in the past, by the way. You can go to Bristol, you can go to Chappie, you can go to Surf Drive, where we've had to go into the dune, a minimum amount, put a wall up, and backfill and plant. I have already arranged for approximately $500 of beach grass. There's 2,700 square feet we're going to have to plant. And I also have arranged for bayberry, red cedar, and beach plum as potential plantings to replace anything that we've removed. And I have I know how many to do, how many of these plants, where they should go, how far apart they should be, and so on. I got that from the gentleman that provides my beach grass to me. That's about it. I don't know, did I leave something else? A lot of what's in the dune right now is invasive. A lot of bittersweet and poison ivy. There's loads of poison ivy. But we would, when we get through, we would plant this thing, and it would, given enough time, it would definitely be restored to its to a better self than it was to begin with. And then we'd be parking our cars normally. I don't know if you have any other questions, maybe.
Well, we're only beginning. That would be your presentation. Now we get to discuss some of this with ourselves. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. John, I don't think it's exactly like what happened you did Bristol, because Bristol you replaced with the wooden wall,
Yeah.
not with the block.
No, but we had to get into the dunes to do
No,
that.
I understand that, but you didn't have to.
That
go
was my
on-
main purpose to say.
Yeah, you didn't have to go almost 11 feet into the dunes. That's the whole problem I had with the amount of, the distance that you have to dig out the dune. So there's no native material that you can save in there. Has Rocky gone in there or determined if you can save anything?
In the dune, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
To be quite honest, I haven't looked. There may be some individual items that can be saved.
Okay.
There may be some
I think we should
isolated
try to save what we
isolated
can.
bayberry in there.
Yeah, I think we should try to save what we can, because there are some islands of really nice native, and there's a lot of invasives, you're right, but the islands are nice natives. $500 worth of beach grass, you said?
Yeah, that's
How
for,
many homes is that?
pardon?
How much is that?
That is, um, there's,
Is that enough to plant?
yeah, it's 24 bundles. Each bundle does 112 square feet. It's $22 per bundle.
So
That's the way they
24
come,
bundles.
that's where they come from the grass guide.
Okay, and you don't know how many bayberry, beech plum, or cedars you?
Well, I'm looking at you, you're probably gonna need 32 clusters with 5 plants per cluster. The clusters being 10 feet apart, and each plant within the cluster 3 feet apart. So you're looking at 34 clusters of plants that, we've done this at Minot East many moons ago when we changed the entrance.
Don, my concern is that you have the funding to purchase the plants. Do you have the funding in place to purchase the plants?
It's gonna be in fiscal 16 apparently, unless I can come up with some source of funds.
So you're
It's
not
in the
doing-
capital plan for
So you're
fiscal.
not doing the wall this year?
If I can come up with an alternative source of funds, it's what I call shovel-ready, once I clear you
Yeah.
folks. If I can't get the funds, yes, it'll be fiscal 16. There are some,
But it is in the capital plan.
I'm sorry,
It is in the capital plan.
it definitely is, yeah.
Okay. And on the construction of the wall, so you're saying that the town of Falmouth, Department of Public Works is going to do the excavation and the installation of that interlocking block retaining wall?
Yes, yes. As I said,
I'll probably require a meeting with those guys prior to them doing it.
as I stated, if they can't do it, we're just gonna add to the price. But they definitely can do the excavating and,
Well, whether it's DPW or a contractor, an outside contractor, I'm still gonna need to meet with them. You know I'm concerned about this project, just because of the impacts to the dune. And they're gonna take a section of the wall out at once and then dig back and put the block retaining wall. Is that what you said? They're not gonna take the whole wall down, right?
they were going to,
Do it in sections.
we can do it in a section. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm sure we could do a section at a time, although I think it would be more efficient to do the whole length at one time.
If I can interject with that, I think that, this is fairly casual as far as a presentation is going for a substantial project. Usually there's a lot more detail that we review than just what has been presented. Not that it's lacking, and not that we can't understand it, but usually there's a little bit more for us to review and absorb. Going to the site, seeing the function of the parking lot, that's all understandable. But if you think that I'd be in favor of that whole length at one time being exposed, I really have an issue with that. It needs to be manageable sizes. You've already gone into question that I'm not comfortable, and I don't mean to speak before the rest of the board, but I recently have taken exception to engineers, well, we think we can. Well, what if, and this, that. I need to have a real positive feeling that, and there's going to be, if the order is issued, the town's going to be as accountable as I hold private contractors. Right? I think we can, and things like that. There's going to have to be a solid methodology, whether we describe it in our order of conditions, and that's how it's adhered to, and there's a meeting prior to any activities beginning so that that's fully understood. I, last week, was pronouncing to all the engineers and the applicants then, this, communication link is really, needs to be shored up, like this wall. An understanding of what activities are going to be allowed and not expanded more than or less than. I really, this, and again, I don't mean to jump in front of people tonight. The height of this wall is I don't know if you need an engineer's stamp, for the height of this wall. These blocks are substantial, they weigh a lot, but, you're moving massive amounts of material that you want an angle of repose. You may, there's a approximate temporary limit of disturbance. I don't have, I just don't have warm fuzzies with approximates and that. I don't accept it in other presentations, and there's a public benefit to this. So there's some latitude with that. We all want to see this improved because it is such a great area and is used by so many. We understand that. But our charge, in your packet, the trees that are behind this wall in this photograph, they're going to stay or go. I don't know. I don't have a big plan showing them down there whether they're going to stay or go. Is your angle of repose going to absorb these? And, if they're going, that's fine, as long as we know it, if that's what you anticipate. The materials to replace this dune, to fortify it, to rebuild it, I had to do a quick math, and it's, I think, 2,686 square feet as with the beach grass, and you said approximately 2,700 square feet. Sounds pretty decent, because you're going to have other plantings as well, so as to absorb that in there. Again, I said this is a lot more casual than what is usually presented.
If it's critical, they'd only do a section at a time. I'm sure that could be,
It's going to be a condition.
yeah.
I am not in any way, even though it seems like they could do it in a day, just from what's been described. You said if they can type of thing, and then it might go to a subcontractor if they can't. Well, it's
They've
also,
already bought onto this.
oh, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but that's not what we said.
And the time, well, I said that if for some reason they can't do it, yeah, but,
Well, the if is what we deal with, and this is how we're going to deal with it. We're going to end up having a prescribed notice of intent that describes to whomever the contractor is, A, B, C, D, and E. And that's the way it's going to go if this is approved. One of the things that I don't have, and again, my apologies to the board for jumping into this both feet. Our cross-section, which is informative, and I have a description of the length, but I don't have any elevations. In this wood wall here, there's step-downs. The existing structure has step-downs through it. Is this wall going to be continuous all at one length? Are we going to have the step-downs that go towards the lower end of the chute? These are things I'm curious about. And when you backfill, what's coming, the dune now slopes down to the wall.
yes, some of that dune is only 2 or 3 feet high as it approaches the wooden wall. And some of it is higher, there's no doubt about that.
Right.
My plan was to do the whole, not have a step down. But a step down would obviously save us a few bucks from.
Well, and I don't want you to change the design, I want to understand your design, okay? And on your cross-section, it shows it coming off level and then tapering down. If you're removing the material that's there, and you're backfilling to that certain height, the wall itself, where the step-downs are, your grade's going to be higher over there. I just want to understand if there's enough yardage of material to go the full length of that, where you're not going to have to either modify the dune in height to fill in behind this, or truck suitable materials in to backfill with. And these are just a void that we have that I believe you would, because you're actually going into the dune more. I believe that you have enough because of the distance between the two existing walls. I think that you do, but I don't like saying I think. I have to say these things because this has been continued, and I've been down there like 9 times, just because I keep wanting to stay fresh with it and reviewing in my mind. And I didn't mean to jump in, Jen. It just was something that,
Please do.
if And we're gonna open up to the board, as we always do. And again, I don't like to jump in front of people on this, but, I appreciate the methodology, and as described, it just needs to be tightened up. And I think if we do that, it's gonna be through conditions that are gonna have to be understood by whomever the contractor is, so that it's crystal clear that we don't want a snafu right in the middle of this thing.
You're saying to name a contractor, huh?
No, whomever the contractor is, whether it's the town, or ABC Construction, or XYZ Construction, whomever is going to be doing the work is going to have to read the order and understand it, because I'm going to make this my pet project, just to make sure that, because it is important. It's a very active space, and this is something well worth doing. I just want it done well. I don't want a snafu in the middle of this thing. I really don't. So I think I'm going to step off my soapbox and open it up to the board. John?
Well, I grew up in North Falmouth, so I really like Old Silver Beach. I loved being there as a kid, and I know the area that you're talking about. I think that this is an important project. As the chairman recognized, there's a big public benefit here. It is an area that we're obviously concerned about, and I think that there are ways that we'll be able to address that. I just wanted to refer to this picture that the chairman was showing, where it has the wooden wall, and your diagram, there's two wooden walls. And I just want to make sure that the wooden wall that's shown in the picture is actually, it's the second wall, and there's another wooden wall behind it.
14 inches behind it,
Those are both being taken out?
yes.
And, okay, so the amount of material is being removed back to that area,
Yes.
at least?
Actually, I take
Okay.
that back, it's approximately 3 feet between the existing
Okay.
wooden walls.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's shown on the drawing.
On the detail, right. And I think that was it for me.
Mike?
Don, the town did a really nice job at Bristol Beach. We took that dune and essentially accomplished the same thing. My only concern is that wall is wooden, maybe 3 feet high, and this thing's 6 feet high, part of it being buried, but it's a substantial wall, and the blocks are heavy. I want to be sure that that dune is protected during construction. And I think it can be handled. My only reservation, Don, is we're being more lenient towards the town than we normally are towards a private resident, comes in. And it's good cause, because it is being, we know the people doing the work for sure, and there is a benefit. I'm struggling with a lack of a plan view that shows where it is, construction techniques on how that block will be placed. So if my fellow commissioners can wrap their heads around that issue, I'm comfortable.
Plus.
Don, usually with these type of walls, they end up putting 3/4 native stone behind it for drainage. And I didn't see anything in here methodology-wise, what they're gonna do, or, because I'd be concerned that the beach sand might sift right through them. It's not a tight sealed wall. And like I say, normally when they construct these, there's a barrier behind it of 3/4 native stone. And then they usually put a cloth or something over the top of the 3/4 to keep silt out of the stone. So I'd like to get a little more information about how this is gonna be built.
You're going to have stone at the base.
I understand that, but usually behind the wall itself, on the fill side, it's usually recommended that there's a certain area, and there's a formula for it, that is 3/4 stone for drainage.
I left my pen in the cars.
And the other thing you might want to check with the building commissioner on, because this wall is more than 4 foot in height,
He has a copy.
exposed, so I think that requires a building permit, if I'm not mistaken.
I gave Eladio a copy of it. I'd have to check with him
Yeah.
to see where he stands on it.
Yeah, I'd just like to see some more, information about how how this wall is going to be constructed as far as,
Do you know that the way those blocks are designed, that they actually come in
Step
at
back.
a slight,
yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with
slight
them.
angle?
Very familiar with them.
Okay.
I guess that's it. I just want to see more of, an explanation of how it's going to be built. As far as the methodology required by the manufacturer. That's it.
Mary?
I appreciate what Mike said about consistent treatment of applicants. That's always one of my most important concerns, and not just public applicant versus private ones, but all across the board. I think a way that we can feel okay about that is that we appear to be taking an approach where we will be conditioning things, so we're not actually letting the applicant, or, taking an attitude where the applicant can do less than another applicant might, in terms of executing the project. But one thing that strikes me in all the previous comments that have been made is that we may be in a situation where once we have a more fleshed out methodology in place, we may want to reconsider or do a cost, have the beach department, whatever, do a cost estimate and make sure that the funds are there. Since I think, are talking about something a little more costly than what they may have had in mind. And I don't want the project, the methodology or anything about the project to be driven by available funds. I think it should be the other way around. So I'm not sure how we go about dealing with that concern, but it's a concern.
All right. Thank you. Mario?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this area for many years, and those walls have been leaning more and more towards the parking lot. And the reason for that is, we're talking about a very dynamic coastal zone here. That's a primary dune that is migrating landward. And the retaining walls have long since lost their function on that. I guess my question is, I know there's a liability issue here too. If that wall falls on somebody who's in the lower parking lot, I suppose the town would be liable for that.
Well, we've already had some cases where people have, backing up, have either hit the wall or hit another car, and they've gone to
Yeah,
the town for
Yeah.
relief of some kind.
it's a tough question because you're not supposed to interfere with the landward migration of a coastal dune. I think that's in the regulations. But the wall needs to be either replaced or, and here comes the big one, or abandoned completely and let nature take its course. I'm sure the town's crazy about that idea. So, but
You're not making friends down there.
that would be so much cheaper, and it would restore that coastal dune, which has been bifurcated for many years by the parking lot and walls. So I'm kind of on the fence, I guess.
And I think in the long term, it would not be cheaper for the town.
Recognizing Mario is true to his word on that. That is the dynamic of this. That's truly what has happened. I would feel different if they did not acknowledge the historical inner wall. If that inner wall wasn't there, and they were proposing to go back as far as they have. And I think that the front wall was an attempt to try to capture and maybe create a buffer in itself, which just failed. I think it was an unsuitable design for this area. And you are true to your word, this is a,
I agree with you. I think we need more than that cross-section. I think we need an engineered plan.
I
Something
think
this
that
big.
that's,
It's not a small project.
yeah, and I jumped right off into it. And my fellow board members are equally aware of what we normally listen to and have in our packets.
Don, would it be helpful if I called Peter or Scott tomorrow and explained to them what you need?
Yeah, I was going to touch base with him.
Okay.
But no, that would be
Yeah, I
fine.
think I can explain what the board is looking for to them.
Yeah, he's been trying to
I just
help me.
understand what they're looking for
Yeah.
after working with them for 10 years, so I can let Peter know exactly what the board is looking for as opposed, Mike, you want a plan view of that parking lot, so you know the extent of the
Right.
wall. You want across, a more fleshed out cross-section with a stamp.
And the actual caps,
You want to know what the manufacturing
Yeah, the methodology of building the
methodology
wall.
is for the construction of the wall, and whether or not there has to be drainage behind it.
filter fabric, or whatever
Yeah,
description's behind it.
I would like to see from a staff level, because I want to see, there's some big trees in there. I want to see the trees flagged that have to come out, and I'd like to see more of a planting plan. Because you said you're envisioning 34 clusters of plants, the clusters are 10 feet apart. See, I was listening to you now. 3 feet, the plants inside each cluster are 3 feet apart, but what you didn't tell me is how many plants per cluster. 5, okay. See, I put 8
I think
plants,
that's-
so I was being optimistic in here, and I was doubling the amount of plants.
Yeah, there are five
You had 5 per cluster?
per cluster.
I like my number of 8 to 10. So I'd like to see that kind of on the plan as well. And if it would help you, Don, I can call Peter and Scott tomorrow.
I think in a spirit of cooperation between inside the town itself,
Yeah,
I hope you look at and hear that this board is looking at this positively, that we're not trying to pick on anybody, but we need to be consistent with what's presented to us and how we do it. We're willing to work with all the applicants as best we can, but the burden of that threshold really doesn't have to rest on us just because it's ourselves in this situation right now. So I think with what Jen had mentioned, if there's any other board members that would have any other strong issues, I think we can cross this real easy with just a little bit fine tuning so that we can be real clear when we put an order out, notice of intent. Would you like to request a continuance?
Well, yeah, in light of some of the requirements, I think I'd like to request a continuance. Probably, it might be 2 weeks, because I think our engineering staff is pretty busy right now.
Don, it's going to be the next available hearing
Oh,
is December 3rd.
December 3rd?
Yeah, so that gives them, yeah, because we're completely booked on the 12th, and we don't meet the 19th because of town meeting, and then we don't meet the 26th because it's the day before Thanksgiving. So the next available hearing would be December 3rd, and that should give engineering suitable time to put that together for you, and then get it to the board a week in advance so they can look at it. So we'll have to have stuff in by the 26th.
And I want you to recognize that that date, the 26th of November, would be the latest it would be accepted by the board for the plan so that we can review it a week ahead of time.
Okay.
And I want to be clear on that as well, that if it's not on the 26th, there would be another continuance, just because we need to have that week to be able to review. Is there any other, knowing what the applicant's requesting, I'd entertain a motion.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue the hearing until December 3rd.
Second.
Okay, that's Mary's motion. John's second. At this point in time, is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, next is 58 Davis Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing shed and construct a one-bedroom addition with stairs, attached garage, deck expansion to extend the driveway, install a trench drain, dry wells, native tree, and shrub mitigation plantings, remove a tree, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Do we have
Can you tell me before, I'm sorry,
Oh, hang on.
didn't give you the floor. You gave me all the orders, but all that continued.
Russ, Tom, Mike, Mary, and John.
just the four of us?
Nope.
Just the five of us.
Russ, Tom, Mike.
Oh, Mike, I'm sorry.
I keep forgetting Mike all the time?
No, you said Mike.
I did say Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just Tom's
My bad
hearing.
here.
Just Tom's here.
That's it. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I was here perhaps 3 weeks ago. We discussed this project and its possibility as a vernal pool, went over some options of some procedures to follow. One of them was to do, I think what Mario described as what a dry pool inventory, I think it was. Anyway, we just got this report yesterday. This inventory was done about a week ago from Alan Richmond, PhD, herpetologist. His report down near the bottom of the second page, the isolated depression fails to meet any of the biological criteria required by the Massachusetts Natural Heritage Program and the revised guidelines. And his conclusion, his opinion that the depression does not function as a vernal pool, but function as a detention basin capturing runoff water from the surrounding houses. This was previously identified as a wetland. It's still an isolated vegetated wetland. That is this Dr. Richmond's opinion that it's not a vernal pool. So in light of that, I mean, I'm back here to have this report. I've not made any changes to the plan because this plan, as presented originally, has the 2-to-1 mitigation planting required for increase in impervious surfaces in the B zone of a vegetated wetland, and not considering it as a vernal pool. So, as I said, the plan hasn't changed. I know this report came kind of late. So you have to see what you want to do about in discussion, how you want to take it from here.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Mario's reading the report. I do have a question for Tom. How did you come by contacting Dr. Richmond?
Jack Vaquero knows him and has worked with him before.
I worked with him 15 years ago, and I was telling Tom, I was a lead field person under Mario's tutelage at the time, and I got the chance to work with Dr. Richmond at Hopkinton. So it's just, I didn't know how you came up with the name.
Not my connection.
Yeah. What do you think, Mario?
I've known Dr. Richmond for a long time, so he's got a stellar reputation, and the report looks quite good.
Okay.
Right, are there any questions on the board
Thank you
about
for looking into that, Tom.
about The project is not changed because the definition of the resource remains the same as what was originally presented. Are there any other questions at this time for the engineer on this project? I'll take anybody.
No question.
Okay. I'm going to ask ahead of time before I have a motion. I recognize someone from the first hearing. At this point in time, I want to open it up before the motion to anybody that has a comment on this project. If you could just make sure you identify yourself,
Yep.
please.
Sandra Feynman Silva, 50 Davis Road.
Thank you.
I'm in a butter. I'm somewhat mystified because at the last hearing, you gave this project, you offered 3 possible options, which appear now to be off the table, even though they were on the table at the last hearing. One of which was to provide additional plantings to mitigate the wetland area, to move the plantings, have the indigenous vegetation planted. The second was to move the project to the other side of the house, farther away from the wetland. And the third was to wait till April because you couldn't determine whether this was a vernal pool until April. So now you have an expert that everybody loves, because you all know this expert, who is now sort of preempted those 3 options that were on the table. This isn't kosher, in my opinion.
One moment. Well, I can appreciate your feeling. I do not know this gentleman. I'm going off of what as you saw, I've been perusing the document myself. As far as the options that were discussed, were in the possibility that it was a vernal pool, and that they were offering those different scenarios in case it was a vernal pool. At this point in time, all the testimony that's been presented is leaving it as it was originally described.
Well, but this committee raised the issue, and I'm not an expert on vernal pools, you said you couldn't determine it if it's a vernal pool or not until the spring. So at this time of year, it's not possible to scientifically determine whether or not it's a vernal pool. That's why it was going to be deferred until April.
Well, that was
And
there was
the
discussion
owners
on that.
had an option of resolving that problem by putting in more indigenous plants.
Thank you.
Right now, they could do it right now. Or they could move the project to the other side of the house.
And you are correct as far as, I'm glad that your memory serves you so well.
I'm glad it does too.
What you just described was what was discussed at that hearing. But what is being presented tonight is something different. It's not, in that description that you just had, you're describing all the events if it was a vernal pool.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sure that these are recorded. And
If-
I think I'm
and that
correct on
people-
this.
that-
Because why would you defer to April
Because
to
we did not
decide if
have-
it's a vernal pool?
There were different
you
ways
gave
of
the
determining.
Hold on. The chair
option.
has the floor, and I will recognize people accordingly.
You gave the homeowners an option of resolving this immediately, going forward with their plan,
Yes.
if they were to agree to put in more indigenous plants. Or they could wait till April and not have to put in the indigenous plants if it were determined that in April that it was not a vernal pool, or the third option would be. And that was sort of posed as, we're going to come back to this meeting tonight, and the homeowners are going to have made a decision because they only had heard about this a day or two before the hearing 3 weeks ago. They didn't have time to make a decision. I mean, that, and I think my recollection is pretty darn accurate.
And you are, and thank you for helping me describe what I've been desperately trying to. There was a dry method that was also mentioned at the hearing, if you do recall. And that was mentioned by Mario. On another way to verify this was a dry method. And that's this. Okay, they didn't want to wait till the applicant, all these activities were done by the applicant. This is the applicant's dry method report by this expert on his, and this is what I have. This is what I'm dealing with. This does not automatically approve this project. Okay, I want you to understand that as well. We still have to take this under deliberation and talk about it. And everything that you discussed has been reiterated again. They didn't, I want to be clear, they didn't choose to wait till April. They took the initiative on their end to get this dry
But,
method report.
I mean, it was my opinion that at the meeting 3 weeks ago, the dry method was sort of debunked. And it was sort of said that, well, that method is not really a very accurate method, that the way to determine whether this is a vernal pool or not is to wait until April. Yes, the so-called dry method was discussed,
Right.
but it was really not posed as an official option of the three
And-
options I described.
And all those options were just discussed on the board. No one has to take any options. I want you to understand that. We can discuss things and that can be presented, but they can just keep coming back to the same thing. It doesn't mean that they have to do these things. These decisions were made by the applicant to propose the project as it is right now. It was their choice not to put buffer plantings, their choice to not do as we had suggested about looking into going on to the other side of the house. Those were their decisions to present this project, which they originally had. The information that we received backs up. It's a pretty compelling investigation that was done by this expert. It's something that describes very accurately when, and I'm not a perfect person on this, I'm not the biologist here, but with staff and with our other member that recognizes the construction of this, I could go through in minute detail. This has been told and written up by an expert that is an isolated, it's not a vernal pool. And that's what I have in
I
front
mean,
of us.
I mean, if the community, if the well-being of the environment is a concern, then I would ask that some more mitigation be done. You know,
And
based on what was testified to at the last meeting 3 weeks ago, it was my understanding that this would not have really, beyond a reasonable doubt, proven that that was not a vernal pool. I mean, there is a wetland there, it's all across the back.
yes,
It goes all the way from Nursery Road, or whatever it is, to down behind Davis Road. I don't think it's just house runoff, I think it's been there for a long time. But I think, those are my concerns. I think that this is sort of a backdoor way of getting what you want without really listening to, the concerns of the community. In this case, I am the community.
yes. And I appreciate your being here again, because sometimes in continuances, people aren't able to make it. And I am glad you're here. I'm glad that you're having this input. And the engineer knows that when we take something under deliberation, and there's always our concerns, as compelling as the report is, what was suggested and offered at the same time is part of the record. And that would, I can guarantee you, is going to be discussed. During the deliberations of this. And we still have the other board members. I've been stepping in it way ahead of people tonight, and I apologize. So, with your patience, I'd like it to open it up to the board. And if you have another comment, we'll definitely have you back up.
All right, thanks.
I want to start with Jen.
No comments.
Okay. John?
No comments.
Mike?
I'm a civil engineer, and I've come to appreciate that all depressions are not created equal. There are depressions that are true wetlands and need full protection. There's a special subset that is called a vernal pool, which has a whole series of criteria, some of which are physical and some of which are biological. What we have is something that was suspected to be, that could be a vernal pool, which has a special benefit to the environment. A rather rigorous approach was taken, and it determined that it is not a vernal pool, which changes its status before this commission. And I have no reason, I don't know the gentleman, I don't know, but what he did is in good keeping, and he satisfied this commissioner that it is not a vernal pool. Thank you.
Russ?
No questions.
Mary?
Just like to elaborate a little on a couple points. Just for the record, I also don't know this consultant. When I first looked at his report, I noticed that he's in Wilbraham, and this may be a correct assumption or an incorrect assumption, but I thought, well, he's not local. I suppose he was selected on the basis of his reputation. And having read the report, I found that I also am not a wetland scientist, but I found that I really learned something from this report. I thought he did an excellent job of explaining everything you need to know to understand his decision. And then the only other point I would make is these other proposals that the board put forward for addressing this situation. The framework for that was, let's assume it is a vernal pool, here's how you could solve the problem. But the applicant chose not to do those things, and the applicant, any applicant, is within their right to present a project, and, you know, if it complies with our regulations, we don't have any basis for telling them, well, do it some other way. And I guess the last point I would make is my recollection of the last hearing. I left here assuming that Mr. Bunker was going to get us get us this kind of report. That's the way the whole thing struck me as what the conclusion of that hearing was, that he's going to come back with this report, because we said that that's another way of doing it, and clearly they don't want to wait till April, so I was expecting to see such a report. And that's all.
Mario?
Well, yes, I too thought that Mr. Bunker was going to opt for the dry method, and he got a good expert who did apparently a thorough job from what I've read. And he didn't find even one facultative vernal pool critter like a fingernail clam or a caddisfly larvae. He also mentioned an important thing that sometimes people forget. The volumetric capacity of the basin and its overall drainage area has to contain water 2 consecutive months. So it can't be just something that puddles up for, 3 or 4 weeks and then dries up. It has to be a fairly substantial vernal pool. Now, I don't know if our definition under the regs differ from the state. That's the only, does our definition of vernal pool differ from the state?
Give me 1 second, Ryan. consecutive months?
2 consecutive months, yeah. That's the state definition and biologic definition too, so. He went through the trouble of hiring, an off-Cape biologist who has a good reputation. I kind of think they've done the footwork, rather than us putting this off till April. Seems the client has done his due diligence here.
Yes, ma'am.
Make one more observation or recollection. This whole question, as far as I know, came up as, in the mind of our agent, perhaps this was a vernal pool. But I don't think anywhere along the line, anybody had a strong conviction that this is a vernal pool. It was a possibility in someone's mind that had to be checked out. That's all.
It had the potential to be one.
Right.
Correct.
To determine it.
I could point out too, and just incidental, not important, when Jack told me when Mr. Richmond was going to come and do it, it was right after, I think a week and a half ago, we had some heavy rains, like 1 or 2 days, it was right after that. I was like, oh, well, of course he's going to find, at least he's going to be water in there, so it might not be such a dry method. But actually, he said it was dry. I mean, even after a couple of the heavy thunderstorms, the water ran right through it, and it was dry.
Right, at this point in time, I'll open it back up. If there's any other concerns from you, is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Okay. I need a motion.
Move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
That was Mary's motion, Mario's second. Is there any other discussion on the board?
We had a quorum on this. Can Mario second it?
Ross, you second it?
I'll second it.
Russell, second. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. You're counting in your head here. I could read your lips. All right.
I was trying to remember, I know you, at the last meeting you were here, but I was trying to remember why it was.
Previous, yeah, the original set. Okay. Any other discussion, last chance? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, next is John Parker Lakeside Village Condominium, 35 Parker Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to improve the existing access to Flax Pond with a 4-foot wide crushed stone or paver landing, replace timber stairs with an Allen block stair system, room and seat adjacent to sidewalk, to walkway, to obtain after-fact permission to reconstruct a concrete block retaining wall and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yeah, I need to call for
I think it's everyone.
We have the
I
quorum
think
coming.
it's everyone.
Quorum is Mario, Mary, Russ, Tom, and John.
Oh, we're not here.
We're not here.
Or did I skip your name again,
We've had a
Mike?
party.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe this was continued so that the applicant could get a DEP number, a letter from Natural Heritage, which is that pesky tidewater mucket, a dry well detail on the plan view, because we didn't like that pipe coming out of the wall. And it was nice to see, Mike, that your clients decided to enhance that, the vegetated area on the lot as well. So staff was happy to see that. You still don't have that letter from Natural Heritage? Or has it been over 30 days since you submitted it to them?
It's been over 30 days since we submitted it, but they moved,
They did move, yeah, they did.
so their mail didn't get to them. So we didn't get the clock really didn't start ticking until we got the green card back. So it's very close, but not quite 30 days from when they actually received the letter because they moved.
You're not doing any in-water work or beach work.
Nothing. So we were hopeful that you could close pending receipt. I mean, there's not going to be any take, there's nothing that would be impacting the tide whatsoever.
Mr. Chairman, the species in this area is a freshwater mussel. If they're not doing any in-water work or beach work, I can't see how the mussel would be adversely affected, and I can't see natural heritage saying that this project would result in a take. I really can't. We've had small, I hesitate to use the word dock, but walkway projects where we're putting the sleeves in the substrate, and they haven't found that those projects result in a take. Usually the board does require natural heritage's comment letter. We can continue it one more week to see if they can get it to you, but
What is the likelihood of that?
they moved. Mike's right.
The likelihood of getting it, or the likelihood they'll consider it a take?
No, likelihood you'll receive something.
Can't predict what they'll do. But what we're concerned about is weather is starting to tick away.
And I can appreciate, that's why I'm asking. One of the things that's shown on the limit of work silt fence at the lower edge, that temporary, so they're controlling, not just the, I don't see even runoff being affected. I think that,
We're actually adding a dry well, so we're improving that.
exactly. I don't know how the board feels. I have where this is upland activities, I don't have a strong opposition to closing this and taking under advisement.
With the proviso given, what's the matter?
No, go ahead, please. Yep.
With maybe one proviso in the order of conditions is that no work take place waterward of the bottom of the steps, given the history that this fellow has with unpermitted structures. I think it's a good idea to have that in there.
Okay, because it's a condition that just strengthens the limit. Yes, we can do that with the proviso that no activities past that. Okay. Is there a motion?
You done, Mary?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think I share Jen's opinion as to what's likely to happen with natural heritage. After 5 years, I can't imagine that they're going to find a take.
Any other area, I wouldn't say no, but this particular pond, I know the species they're talking about, and any other project you've seen with in-water work, they haven't resulted in a take, so I may be going out on a limb here, but I'm pretty confident.
I feel the same.
Okay.
We're good.
Good. I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Council Russell's motion, Mary's second. Any further discussion on the board? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this project?
Mike, when you get that letter, doesn't matter even if we should do it or send it to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure we'll get it, and just send that over, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Mike?
Thanks.
Next is 189 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new house on open piers with a deck, stairs to reconnect utilities, install gravel driveway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Mr. Chairman, we received the DEP.
And that was why it was closed.
There's the only
Continued.
for the DEP.
Upon the receipt of the DEP number, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
Russell's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next was a continued on the Black Beach Harborhead Association, and that gets us to continued enforcement issues. Lucas McCabe, 62 English Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission for a clearing and altering wetland resource area in buffer to resource areas as defined in FWI 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, was it last week?
The 23rd?
Last week, week before, I believe, we presented you with, the violation at 62 English Street. I'm passing around the original photos we had shown the board of the property back in 2012, and now. Also, a series of photos that was taken on the property last Thursday when we were given permission to go on the property. A substantial number of trees were taken down up in the order of 200 plus caliber inches. It was something like a number of trees
Yeah.
were taken.
It looked like about 20 to 24 trees to me.
Yeah, there was, on the east side, there was marked, calculated 238 caliper inches of red cedar, 13 inches of white oak, and 4 inches of willow. On the north side, 9.5 inches of cedar, but the two large trees you can see behind the house were grubbed out and replaced with sod lawn, so we don't know the caliper inches of those. Based on the photos and the size of those trees, we're guessing those are each 10 caliper inch trees. They got rid of this Norway maple, good. And a 98 caliper inches of red cedars and approximately 550 square feet of shrub material along the roadside. Along with that, unfortunately, the staff observed a new retaining wall, patio, deck, and a small, we cannot find any documentation on the dock that's out there. So at this point, the staff is recommending an enforcement order requiring a restoration plan, which is going to have to include a substantial amount of red cedars in it. That plan will have to have all the wetland resource areas identified, all the setbacks, the topography, as well as a comprehensive restoration plan addressing tree removal, the shrub removal, mitigation for the patio and that patio that was constructed in the back of the house. And unless they can provide some documentation, that dock will have to be removed as well. Along with, obviously, the monitoring reports you always put in a enforcement order and restoration.
Do we happen to know the contractor that did all this work?
I have not been told by the property owner the contractor's name.
It'd be interesting to find out, because this is substantial, and they need to be educated on the this is poop.
Jen, you need to buy Mark a ruler. The pen doesn't,
He has one. He actually was armed out there with it. No, Russ, he had a tape measure with him.
what's with the pen?
I'll tell you after.
It looks better in a photograph.
Ah, okay. A yellow ruler looks pretty good too.
Do you know?
When I first started, I was getting pictures of just the tree trunk, and it was frustrating, so I reprimanded poor Mark, and I told him, you need to do
did.
something out there
No,
to
no,
give
look
me
at it.
scale. I said, just throw the pen on the ground and give me some scale, so that's what he does.
The,
And he
I'll
does, those measurements are accurate because he does go out there armed with a tape measure, and I saw it in his hand when I went out there.
Could I ask Jen a couple things?
Sure.
I-
Mark did the
I'm
investigation,
not
so
sure
he
if
did
you
that.
already said, talked about this or not. I may have missed it. But I'm wondering what you're recommending when it comes to the patio, the walkway, the deck, and the dock. Are you recommending?
The dock, unless they can provide documentation that's a legally permitted and licensed
Right.
structure, that needs to go.
Okay, what about the other things?
The patio
I-
was an extension, I believe it's an extension of what was existing on the property. It was probably something that would have been permitted, but it does need to be mitigated for.
Okay.
So that mitigation is gonna have to be in addition to putting back the shrub material that was lost when the property was altered.
Okay, what I was really wondering was whether that patio and walkway would have been permitted, because when I went to the site a couple
The
weeks ago, I
walkway-
didn't even look, think
The
about those things.
walkway going down to the dock with all those shells was just dirt before.
And the other question I had came up the last time we discussed this. Are all these violations confined to the property at 62 English Street?
Again, we don't have a survey of the property. So that's one of the things that the
So we'll
surveyor
find
is going
out.
to have to determine. I mean, we look for property boundaries. I don't think Mark found one. So that's something that we're going to have. That's why it's important to have a surveyor. Mr. McCabe did email me yesterday. He said, I'm sorry to say I'm in Atlanta and won't be able to make the meeting. As I understand it from our last conversation, your plan is to present the recommendations to the committee tomorrow night. He assumed I'd be sharing that with him after, and that he has contracted a surveyor, and they're looking for a subcontractor to deal with the vegetation, the restoration plan, and the wetlands work that needs to be done on the property.
Okay.
I did email him back and say that we'd be recommending to the commission a restoration plan with substantial tree replacement, and that I was also concerned about the work that was done in the patio, the retaining walls, and the dock.
Okay.
And I did send the property owner a copy of Mark's detailed assessment of what was removed, but not the pictures with pen for us.
My recollection from when I was there, I should go back and look again, but I suspect that some of the violations are on probably their abutters across that street. I imagine they both own to the center line there, it's private, or else it's town land.
This is the way the assessors have it. Now, whether or not the assessors shows it correctly, if they've not shown a property boundary right here, so I don't know. That's why it's important to have a survey done.
Yeah, but
Oh, you're saying
I'm
up
talking in here. I think at the end of English Street, there was some
Okay.
violation also.
All right, I can have Mark go back and look. Where's my little?
I could be wrong, but
Yeah, Mark
that's-
looked at this
I mean, that's something that we should be able to see.
in the
Well,
survey.
In the survey, yeah.
Once the
Although,
survey is done.
I mean, we can see the property lines in the survey. I don't know that
Well, we
the
can
surveyor is going to put tree stumps on the plan that are not on 62 English. So
Well,
I think
you can
better
ask
look.
them to. I mean, if the board wants the tree stumps on the plan, that can be something that we can require in the restoration plan, is that they locate the trees.
Yeah, I think that should be on there.
Okay.
That's the violation.
Yes, absolutely.
And it would be nice to I feel sorry for the applicant to a point. It's unfortunate they sodded over the big cedars that you can see from the street. That's, it's not often we can have such strong views of this because we get that one that's what, 2 years old?
Yeah.
The before picture that's only 2 years old, and the after, it's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's compelling, you know, and it's just unfortunate that if they contracted somebody and they paid them to do this, that's bothersome as well. I'd like to ask the applicant if they, or the McCabe's, if they, I'd like to know who the contractor is.
Okay,
So
I
that,
will pose that, I posed that question once,
You did, or you will?
I did.
Okay, I was gonna ask you that, actually.
I
Because
did.
what you said was, I didn't hear. I wasn't sure if you had asked or not.
I did. I was not given a name by the property owner.
okay. Well, we need to make a motion to start this process.
Yes, so staff is recommending the enforcement order, as, again, with the survey plan, adding wetland resource boundaries, topography, setbacks from your wetland resource boundaries, existing vegetation on the site, and then all the tree stumps that they can locate the tree stumps. Then they'll need to come up with a restoration plan that, again, addresses the substantial tree removal on that site, as well as mitigation for the expansion of the patio and retaining wall and walkway. And again, unless they can provide some documentation that that dock was there, that dock will need to be removed.
So moved.
Second.
The appropriate findings and the requirement to monitor for 3 years, which is standard in all your enforcement orders.
Yes, I moved to adopt the enforcement order as discussed.
Second that.
So, there's motion. John, second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know how we can stop this. I don't know if it's educational. Obviously, far more damage has been done by what's happened here. And they're gonna plant, they're gonna do this, and they're gonna do that. And it's all well and fine. I don't know if there's a way we can get it out in the paper or get the information out to the public. Because some of this, I think people just don't realize what they're doing. You know, we've done it in the building department with the open permits. We put that in the paper, we've been slammed. We've got more phone calls constantly, you know? I just don't,
Yeah,
it's difficult.
If this-
Again, you know,
If this was done by a local contractor, I really feel bad for these people because he misrepresented to them. Because if they're hiring somebody, they're assuming incorrectly, unfortunately, that there's a certain level of knowledge which did not exist, or just a blatant carelessness towards the regulations.
yeah.
I don't know, it's good to, if we can make this a learning point, that's fine, but I don't know what the mechanism for that would be. It's, yes.
I have one comment. It recalls to mind a very egregious violation that occurred something like 3 years ago. You were on the board at the time, but you recused yourself. And the violations were, it was over on the other side of town, on the west Falmouth side of town. And the chair at the time and the rest of us were so upset about this, and we found it so flagrant that the chair, the hearing was continued, and the chair insisted that all of the contractors on the project had to come the next year so that they could be told.
I don't think
You
you
know.
want to be more proactive and try to, you know
No,
what I
I
mean?
understand. That. My other
And-
comment was going to be, one thing that has occurred to me is perhaps we could reach out at least to the realtors in town. It doesn't by any means take care of all the people who are already here, but I think experience has shown that newcomers are the most likely to offend out of, you know, lack of awareness.
Mm.
And the realtors, I think, who are active in this town all should know what the rules are. I imagine they all do know what the rules are, and maybe it would be helpful to have a friendly meeting with them sometime.
They also do a breakfast. I know they do a breakfast thing. You might be get a free breakfast out of it, John. Or explain it to the realtors. Good PR.
Okay,
You know, 'cause again, you know,
I
we're
will
getting
reach out to the realtor group and
as
see.
much information as we can get out there and kind of, because I think there's been more damage than we're going to be able to fix, you know.
Oh.
And it kind of bothers me, you know, people that want to do the right thing, they come before us, and we should make it easy for them.
No, I understand.
It's a big problem with violations because I don't think we ever, well, you know, whatever we require in the way of restoration, we're never going to see it restored to what it was. And oftentimes there are neighbors who are justifiably very upset and we can't really do anything for them that's near what they would like to see.
And I'm glad you just made that point. I did recuse myself. I believe there was a notice of intent on that property at the time, and so they were outside of the boundaries of that, so it
That's
was
right.
easier to really
Hammer
know
them.
because you had that. Unfortunately, we have no documentation of who did this other than the knowledge of, we'll discuss that later. And, but I do want to, what you just said, the last thing, and we wrestle with the enforcement orders are not pleasant, because it's usually someone who's unaware type of thing, and it engages in finances that are sometimes, you know, they're just committed to this, and, you know, this is how you welcome people in Falmouth type of thing. But I am reminded, and I want to just tell the board, out on Salt Hay, I believe, there was a project in Wacoit at the end of the road, and again, it's not quite the same, but what happened, the result of neighborhood, the violations that were done at the end of the street and trying to resolve that and this, that, and the other, well, he ended up getting, in my opinion, far more than he ever deserved for a multitude of reasons. And what happened in that neighborhood was there was over 10 different violations right after the last developed lot. Everybody else just ended up doing their own violations, and for the next, I came back on the board 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we're still dealing with the same poo-poo to do today, and that originally was in the 90s. So you are right, this restoration is going to be a long-term thing, and fortunately, the applicant seemed contrite and willing to, I don't think they understand the full scope of it yet. They're going to, and it's not going to be pleasant. And hopefully we can guide them, and if anybody's listening to this at home, which some do, understand that it's the homeowner that's responsible, despite the hiring of the contractor that physically did the violation. It's the homeowner that's ultimately responsible. And I would like to suggest to the homeowner that I'd love to be able to have the contractor here and explain to them why, if it's their choice. If they don't want to name the contractor, that's fine, because it's a small town. You know, you're not hidden. Acknowledgement is,
No, they're actually not.
yeah, you know, and, you know, no one's gonna be throwing punches or anything like that. We just want people to understand, you make it harder on yourselves and others that, like you said, come in front of this board with all good intention and pay the price of others' misfortunes and violations. And I'm on a soapbox tonight. Holy cow. So, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Because I'm going to close my mouth. All right, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now we go on to voting orders of conditions. Do we have some?
71 Quash, you can do the 71 Quash.
Is that the only one? to-
Yeah.
That's the only one we're doing.
I do have a card for this. It is Mario, Mary, Ross, Tom, and John. Do you all remember this one?
I'm looking for it. I don't remember it. Yeah, it's the one in the cul-de-sac, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Cul-de-sac with the driveway and
And they
it's-
were moving part of the driveway and putting the little treads.
Oak
expanding
trees.
the parking area.
we had the, yeah, the lower, there was a certain amount of discussion on the maintenance of the septic system that could be done from the upland as opposed to using
Right.
Yeah.
the lower.
Pump, whether the pump was gonna work or not.
Get in and do the septic.
Yeah,
And
that was
his
his first, if we can type of thing.
If me,
Yeah.
probably. The only change the staff had was he has the wrong buffer on the wetland because it's a wetland that's within the ACEC. So it needs to be a 100-foot thing. Tom was supposed to get me a plan change on that. Mike, do you remember which hearing you
I
did?
am there now.
Okay,
I was
figured
lost
that's
third
why you
time,
took over
but
one.
from time to time I get lost, it's okay.
Jim, do you remember, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm speaking out of turn.
No, please.
Do you remember what was said about tree removal for the driveway?
No, they're putting those trees in.
That's right.
I was confused because I was,
They're all
like, the way that it was
trees
named
and-
was different. I don't think they're existing, they're proposed.
Okay, but it
No,
appeared
those
to me that,
six trees.
that trees, nonetheless, that a couple trees
Yeah, because the pine.
had to be removed. That it was not, I mean,
Along the driveway?
yeah. I have the number 4 with a question mark here, and I'm just not,
Well, that pine on the patio has to go. Or the parking area.
I think that actually in the updated plan, didn't they take out that, you mean the little turnaround area? I think they removed that.
No, I'm talking about the latest area. It has the treads.
I'm sorry, the what?
Tree right there,
In the middle of the driveway.
in the middle of the driveway.
Yeah, right. To me, it looks like there are 4, well, yeah, this is a wall, it's behind the whole thing. But just for the driveway alone.
Yeah, that 14-inch pine is gonna have to come down, because that's where the driveway, they're parking.
Mm-hmm.
And what, those six white oaks, he doesn't have whether they're existing or.
They're proposed.
And they were proposed
Right.
because you asked that.
Okay.
So the 6 white oaks are proposed, but that 14-inch pine that's in the middle of the parking lot,
Yeah.
that has to come down.
Right.
It's in
And
middle.
the 6 white oaks are the mitigation
Are
for
the
that?
proposed one.
Okay, I mean, as long as we've got it
Yeah.
dealt with, all right. Thank you.
I can make a finding that the 6 white oaks on the plan near the driveway are proposed if you'd like. That finding?
It-
This is the
I-
last one.
If you feel that's
Sure,
necessary.
why not? Compliance time will make it easier tomorrow.
Yeah, that's, yeah. You know, I know I have a reputation for being picky, but there are so many hearings where we don't
Absolutely.
know what the history is, and even if we have plans, the plans weren't very good.
Nope,
They weren't detailed enough, so might as well start getting
So I'll
it.
say that, I'll
on
make
the
a
record.
finding that that 14-inch pine is going.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And my question with him verifying grades, inverts and stuff, all that happiness up in the septic system, that if he ends up, I want some kind of language that if he has to do something different then and end up having to not have a gravity flow, that his inverts are not able to sustain that, that he comes in with a description of what the system is gonna be.
So basically, you want language regarding if the septic system is modified from a.
Right, because if he
from a
can't do his,
pressure duct to what?
but what he has here, what it says,
Pump chamber, didn't you talk about that?
exactly, it says on the plan, remove existing septic tank
Yeah.
and pump chambers and install new 1,500 gallon. Contractor shall verify grades, inverts of existing SAA prior to installation of tank and ensure gravity flow.
Okay,
And that's a positive statement, but what his testimony was
Yeah.
is if we can do that.
Right.
And I don't have a strong comfort level when people start
I know what you're gonna say.
with if, that if this is not able to be done, that they have to leave that investigation should be done prior to the foundation and all kinds of happiness being completed, because at that point in time, then your disturbance area could be
Yep.
considerably larger.
Okay, got it.
Um, Is there any other?
Chairman, you want them to come back to us, or can that be done administratively?
That could be administratively, because it's gonna be, if he has to leave it, it can be, just so long as we know what's gonna be there. That there's, again, like the tree is missing, we wanna know what the septic system's gonna, the components. It's not that I don't want him to be able to do it, I just wanna know what he's gonna be doing, whichever way it goes.
That is gonna be close.
It is. Yep. It does slow downhill, but not always. So if we have enough information and discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Second that.
That's Mary's motion, John's second. Any further discussion on the board? Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm going to abstain, I was not on that form.
One abstention, that's none.
Okay.
The motion carries. And is that all the votes that we're gonna have tonight, Jennifer?
And we don't need any special meetings for any of these? Great.
No, it's your meeting next week.
No, I know,
Outstanding.
I just meant if the clock was ticking in a certain way for any of them, that's all.
No, we're good.
I would entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
I'm gonna take Mario's all right for a second.
Hey, Jen.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.